بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم إلى يوم الدين. Inshallah, today we'll go to Juz 15, and by this actually we finished the half of the Quran, you know. But I want you to guess in your mind, don't have to tell me now until the end. I take 10 verses, but obviously when I take 10 verses, I might take two for each one that link the idea link together or pick somebody else. So after going to 15 verse, the minimum it should be 150 verses we studied. So just to guess how many we actually studied. It's 115. It has to be higher, a little bit higher than this. So we'll see. Don't have to give me the answer now. The first basically set of verses that I picked, and obviously we started from Surah Al-Isra. This juz go from Surah Al-Isra, beginning of it until Surah Al-Kahf, verse 74. So when you look to this Surah Al-Isra, I found out actually Allah Subhanahu in the beginning is defining, a profound connection, to frame the surah between four things, to connect between four things. So what is these four things that Allah subhanahu is connecting in the beginning of Surah Al-Isra? Connecting the first one, the two sacred places. Honoring Allah, honored two places. Honored Mecca and honored Bayt al-Maqdis. Connected the two together in this surah. Subhana alladhi asra bi'abdihi layla min al-masjid al-haram. He took the Prophet ﷺ by night from the sacred mosque, which is Mecca, to al-Masjid al-Aqsa. The farthest mosque was al-Masjid al-Aqsa, alladhi barakna hawla. So in this case, making the connection between two places. Then Allah subhanahu connected between two revelations too in this. Then Allah subhanahu goes, وَآتَيْنَا Musa, a revelation came to Sayyidina Musa, and revelation came to the Prophet. So Allah connecting between the Torah and the Quran, but then making a distinction, a little bit, one distinction for the Quran. وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلْنَا هُدًى لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. And we gave the Musa the book and made it the guidance for the children of Israel. Then comes in هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ يهدي للتي هي أقوم. Then Allah, surely this Quran, connected now, you have the Torah, here is this Quran, but the Quran guides to what is the most upright. So that means that the Quran basically takes over whatever, because it gives us the better explanation, the more accurate information, and so on. And therefore it becomes the reference. وَيُبَشِّرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. So that is the second connection between the two books. The third connection is between two nations. And two nations, this is two communities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted them with his revelation. The Torah to Bani Israel and the Quran to the Muslim. The only difference that happened that Bani Israel repeatedly deviated, and spread corruption, deviated from the teaching of the Torah, spread corruption. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the righteous people who are supposed to be the Muslims who have the Quran to basically represent that message now, or carry that message. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًا. That Allah declared to the children of Israel in the book that they will surely cause corruption. So this nation will cause corruption. They corruption twice, two times. But وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًا كَبِيرًا. So in their life there will be, but it is going to cause, Allah subhanahu condemning them in that idea, in this point, that they are going to cause corruption twice. Because remember, when Allah subhanahu twice, is twice at how long? Could be 500 years of corruption, but it didn't happen. So I'm not going to go the history, try to explain this. I'm just trying to link, because this verse, people can take it, spend a lot of time when it happened and did it happen and so on. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you will also act with great, arrogance. And frankly, we can see it now, even anyway. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ وَيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And then Allah talk about the Muslims then in that case, that when the second promise comes to pass, we will send to you, to disgrace you, people who will enter the mosque again. So that's anyway a connection between a two nations. Then obviously there must be a connection between two prophets. And the fourth one, Subhanalladhi Asra bi'abdih, whom Allah subhanahu have sent, have took down by night, is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَأَتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابِ with Musa. So Allah subhanahu also making that this, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in that trajectory of the revelations. Musa, because frankly, if you look too seriously to the revealed book, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent so many messengers with certain things. But who the two books, the main book that Allah speak about all the time, a best book, is the Torah, not the Injil actually. Remember when the jinn came and said, we heard the book that came after the book of Moses, although Isa in between. Because if you look at the Injil almost like a history book. The Torah, can you think it has, no matter how much deviation it happened, but it at least has element in it that very clear was a revelation, in it. And you remember when I did trying to say, okay, let's think that we are not born Muslims. How would we know if we wanted to select a book and decide that we need to study this book because that book should, with good expectation that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember what I did? I did by taking I said, okay, if I want to select any book to read, I read the first page and the last page, the introduction and the conclusion. And if I feel the introduction doesn't give me, directly what is this book says, then I said that's not, either the author doesn't know how to write or this book is irrelevant. So I picked, the Veda, because I said the main books of, basically religious books that people claim divinity for it, is the Hindus, the Veda, the Torah, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Gospel, and the Quran. So I picked the first page from each one of them and said, let's read it and see, as a normal human being without any bias, which book should be at least has indicated that Allah is speaking in it. And pick the last page. And when I did this, actually, you directly see in the beginning of the Torah or the Old Testament, indication that Allah is speaking. Allah is talking about the creation. But if you look to the Bible, the New Testament or the Veda, there is nothing. And you look at the Quran, obviously Allah clearly speaking. And in the last page too. So if you really look directly, completely unbiased, you said that Old Testament could be, a book of Allah. And the Quran is a book of Allah. Then what I did, I said, let me look to one subject then, because I always rationalize to my mind, and I said this to too many people, so it's repeated. It is almost like you want to buy a book in American history, for example. Then you look at this book and okay, I picked these two books, and both of them are good books to read, but pick one. So I said, let me pick to a subject that both of them spoke about it and see which one make more sense. Then I said, okay, both of the books spoke about Satan. Let me look the first time the Quran speak about Satan and the first time the Bible mentioned Satan. Okay. And directly when you do this, you said, wait a minute, this book has been corrupted by Satan, the Torah. There's no way it could be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking. Because the first time Allah is speaking, the Torah include, we know what is in the Quran, about the condemnation of Satan. But in the Torah, they said that God, by the way, if you look to the Arabic book, they say Allah all the time. In the beginning, Allah created the heavens and the earth. Not God created, they translated Allah to God. If they kept it, because Allah is not, people think, those people, foreign, Western, think that Allah is a Eastern God. No, look at the revelation, your own revelation. Anyway, so when I look at Satan in the Old Testament, it shows that Allah is sitting, Satan is sitting with Allah and the angel. And Allah, by the way, who heard this story from me before? Okay. Okay, so I'll repeat it, because if I don't want to repeat something that I said it and you still remember it anyway. I always like people who forget, because frankly, when it comes to teaching some of these things, it's still limited information. It's not like infinite. Every time you are going to discover something new. You can actually, but anyway, they're not, at least you, but you're doing it, it become limiting to you after a while. So Allah is sitting with Satan and the angel. So Allah telling the Satan, you keep, enticing me to kill Job, Ayub. But Job is a righteous man. He's a good man. So why should we kill him? But why don't, since you insist, then why don't you go hurt him, but don't kill him? Now, who is influencing whom here? God is listening to Satan and is going to hurt somebody because Satan told him to do this. So he said, wait a minute. Here is obviously, there's no logic in this story. This cannot be the writing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this account. So anyway, that's how I said, logically, if we born a non-Muslim and we just focused in these two beginning and the last page, it becoming unfair to anybody who can think seriously not to accept the Quran as the word of God. And that's why, frankly, I feel sometimes unsympathetic to those people. Because I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not asking to become an expert in the religion. I put in the Quran from the first page all what the information you need. If you just know the first, which is the Fatiha, it's a few 7 verses, in that regard. So at least read it, read the first page, and to see if this could be a word of God or not a word of God, and make your own mind on this in this regard. So anyway, the second verse that I picked, this verse, because it's almost basically a profound scientific implication in it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ آيَتَيْنِ, and we made the night and the day are two signs. فَمَحَوْنَا آيَةَ اللَّيْلِ, and then we erased the sign of the night. وَجَعَلْنَا آيَةَ النَّهَارِ مُبْصِرًا لِتَبْتَغُوا فَضْلًا مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ وَلِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابَ. And then we made the sign of the day illuminating, so that you seek the bounty of your Lord, and so that you know the number of years and the calculation. So when you look at this, the night, which is a darkness, was the ayah, and Allah removed it, and they have the, basically the light came in. So when you look scientifically, actually, the darkness is the norm. The light is the exception. Like if you go above the atmosphere, the Earth's atmosphere, everything is dark. Even if you come around and the sun, closer to the sun, it's dark. And now why? And now people actually be able to study light. They have photons and so on, they study reflection or not. Nobody knows how to study darkness. What is darkness? And this is what they tell you, 27% of the universe is dark matter that nobody knows what it is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pointing here that, this ayah, the dark is ayah to you. You about to study it. But until now, it's open to anybody who wants to study physics, a younger guy who wants to study physics, he can focus in study the darkness, what it is. Because we know light, as I said, is a photon. Why we see light? Because if you go outside the sun, basically photon go in a straight line. It only reflects, around the Earth's atmosphere. That's how the light comes in. That's how you see it. Then the other surah, the other verse, this book, we talked about now 2 books in the beginning. The Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Torah, talk about the Quran. Now talk about a third book. That nobody knows this book except all of the other 2 books is books that everybody should know. We all should know the Quran is a message from us, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that time, Sayyidina Musa, the Torah was a message from every human being. But the third book is a book you are the only one who's going to know. وكل إنسان ألزمناه طائره في عنقه ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. That we have, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, and we have fastened on every person deeds of on his neck. So your action is always, holding you by the neck. And then on the day of judgment, Allah will bring you a book. And the book will be open in front of you with all your actions. All what you have done is this life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell you, read it. Read your book. That's your book. And we will make you judge on yourself. You become the judge on yourself in this regard. So this book, every one of us has to basically worried about his book that basically is going to receive and will become open. Everything is accountable for it. And, just to repeat something we said, when I was always reading these verses about the book, I always wonder, I said, how big is that book? Book of record, how can it be? And if you think about it, even if you go to during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when there wasn't like thin papers and so on to write in, do you think how the Quran, that was written in either, leather or something, or basically bones, must be a huge book. Yeah. So imagine now thinking about the book, all of this book that we are going to have record for our, whatever, 80 years or 70 years or something. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make one word that really can hit you about the description in book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, this book is a book marqum, digital book, digits book. I mean, if I am sure no one will have interpreted the word marqum, if you look to any book of tafsir properly, until now we understood that everything is recorded, is digital. It's one or two. And you get a chip that include all your live videos and everything. So in the day of judgment, everybody's going to get this basically record. Maybe in the future it will be something else, but at least it's getting smaller, that yes, all your life can be videos with sound, with words that you wrote, everything will be 100% recorded for you and recorded as a bunch of digits, which is really still amazing for people who understand the computer science. Like if I send you a message in the WhatsApp, for example, you get it in your phone, like a bunch of lines, when you receive it, what do you receive? When you listen to it and you're listening to my voice, what do you get? What is the between me and you? You have a cell phone, I have a cell phone. I spoke to you and you live in China, you received my message, turn it on. What was transmitted? No. The information, that sound, my sound, how is my voice get recorded as 0 and 1, as a digital? How my picture get recorded as 0 and 1, I mean, it's really, until now, it's a little bit perplexing, So in that regard, and this comes in, like when Allah speaks to anybody, how Allah speaks, because sometimes we focus on some of these things, but now our technology is amazing, how you things are transmitted. Okay, so everyone has to watch his book, be sure that in his book something he should be proud of. Okay, here is, in this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes, that's what most scholars will say, that the second most, gravest sin after shirk is being disobedient or dishonoring your parents or not kind to your parents. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ. Allah has decreed that you should worship none but Him. The second one, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And by you show excellence toward your parents. no matter what they do. Because sometimes he said, oh, their parent was bad, they treated me this or not, but that is a test for you. You know, test will come to you in good, test will come in bad. That's a test for you too, in that regard. And then Allah continue, فإما يبلغن عندك الكبر إحداهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهم أف ولا تنهرهما. That subhanallah has this word also. Even when they get old or use one of them or other, don't tell them off. Off, off is what? Is an expression of just the discomfort. You are not shouting or you tell me something I don't like, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, even this, don't do it. Imagine now if you shout at them or say something at them, unfortunately we all, well, I don't know, there is some people who are still have parents, that we are parents, so we like our kids to treat us this way, but we should also think about our parents, and if they passed away, they said, the Prophet ﷺ was asking, is my parent has a right on me after they passed away? And he said, yes, they have right. You should pray for them, and you should connect with people whom you used to connect to and support them. Basically, do good things for them too, because you are their legacy in that regard. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the first thing that you should honor your parent. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes also in the same juz and say, تسبح له السماوات السبع والأرض ومن فيهن وإن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمد ولكن لا تفقهون تسبيحه. The seven heaven and the earth and all what is within them. And here is the word min. In Arabic, if you use min, that means it is intelligent. And ma, is not intelligent. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala min, that means everything in the heavens and the earth has intelligent being that they do tasbih to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't understand the tasbih, but because you don't understand, but they do the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So everything that exists has an intelligence, including the step. Because at the end of the day, what if all of us are made from? Made of atoms, isn't electrons, protons, and neutrons. That's what it is. So atoms, electron, proton, and neutrons have conscious. And I said this so many times. Look at Google, look at the YouTube about double slit experiments. And the great scientists nobody explained it until now. And they said the only explanation was one of the Nobel Prize. He said they must have conscience. They are aware what is around them. So if you know that they do tasbih to Allah, the plant do tasbih, the animal do tasbih, the rocks do tasbih, wouldn't you honor them? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started honoring your parent, but you live in a universe, and this universe is conscious of me and do tasbih of me. You shouldn't be ashamed of yourself that you don't do tasbih too all the time. And would you insult them and you abuse them? How can be this? And then Allah comes in another verse also in the surah and says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. Allah give a special, all humanity are honored. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this come, honor the parents, honor everything in the universe, and then Allah, and every human being is honored. Why? Because I created him. Independent of what race, gender, whatever, even belief, he's still honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah created him in that regard. So in this case, there is Allah, almost in this, surah, Allah gave us this universal honor that everything shall be, as a Muslim, everything shall be honored. Then we come to a verse which I think everybody picked up, which is a verse, but I'll pick with the last end. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listed so many things in, commands. And then the end of it, he said, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. Because sometimes we ask, what is wisdom? And we look at definition and so on. But what is element of the wisdom? In this, Allah listed a few things and said, this is part, what Allah revelation, that the part of the wisdom that Allah revealed to you, So what is these things here? I put it as a 10 commandment. It might be more, but since we talk about always 10 commandments, so I make the list for you about these commandments that these are represented the hikmah or part of the hikmah, part of the wisdom. What these are here, and they go, basically verse 23. And this is when I said, sometime you come to the although I'm discussing one verse about the hikmah, but in the same time you force it to attach to it so many other verses. So what is this hikmah? If we look at it, that first of all, that you should worship anybody but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You be kind to your parent. You support, give to your kinship, your relatives, the poor and who is the needy. Don't be wasteful. And then don't worry about the future, the things for your kids. So people who kill their kids, kill them either by abortion or other things. Abortion mainly. That, wait a minute, we don't have enough money for them or something. Don't kill your children in fear of poverty. Don't approach fornication. And don't kill any soul, and don't approach the wealth of the orphan, except unless you improve it. If you are a trustee of an orphan money, you should approach it it's to increase it, not to steal it, And then, and then when you measure or weigh something, you should weigh properly, have a proper scale for balance. And you can extend it for anything, that if you're weighing anything, your action or so on, be just, be balanced. And then don't pursue something that you have no knowledge of. Don't try to do something that you have no knowledge. Subject you are not knowledge of it, don't address it. Forget it. Then don't be arrogant. Don't walk on the earth. At least you are the big guy, the only guy. So these are all basically moral. Moral constitution has balance of worship, has family, has social responsibility, has economic justice. You look at this as sexual ethics. Look at this few verses summarize you morality, the main element of morality, and you can extract of them sub-element, but these are the fundamentals, the fundamental ones. And this, frankly, should be guide to every believer, his moral and his ethics. In many places, actually, in the Quran and here too, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasized that when you speak, pick the best words to say, because it can be misunderstood. And you remember, we did this exercise before. Maybe somebody will remember it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, they say, always we said, remember we were studying, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, if you want to know the commands of Allah to you, it's easy. Look to the verses that start, O you who believe. Because as soon as you said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, O you who believe, then after this he's going to give you something. He's calling you to listen to these ones. So the first command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given the Quran, O you who believe, there is many qulu qawlan, say a proper speech, do this. There's a lot of things. But the first one is to pick the right word that does not have double meaning that be misunderstood. لا تقولوا راعنا ولكن قولوا انظرنا. Don't use word راعنا can have two meaning, can have take care of us, or you basically speaking about you are arrogant. You tell somebody راعنا, you said رعونة means you are foolish, or take care of me. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, no, look at us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't use words that has double meaning, because that will be, it can be, a person can understood it as an insult, or you use it for insult. So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches the Muslim from the beginning, you should always look to the best speech to say. قل لعبادي يقول التي هي أحسن. Tell my servant to say not what is good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say ahsan. Ahsan means it's the best. Say always the best. Why? Inna shaytana yanzaghu baynahum. Inna shaytana can, because the shaitan will always sow discord between them. You tell somebody something and you mean it good, but he understood it bad. And suddenly a conflict comes between you and them. I'll tell you a personal example. He's passed away. May Allah subhanahu forgive him and and make Jannah Firdaus is his abode. One time we used to give these talks in the masjid. So one person came in and he said he was the one who opened the masjid. I said, Subhanallah, that's great. Actually, he didn't say it. I heard it that he was the one who opened the masjid. Came and was the first one to come to the Fajr. So I said, I was telling him, I said, well, congratulations, you're great. You did great job today. You were the first one even to open the masjid. He got mad from me. He said, he got so upset. I said, why are you upset? I thought I would give you a compliment, He said, you're telling me that because I come late every time, so this is the only time I'm going to come early. I said, subhanallah, it is one of these things. So sometimes you tell your wife something that's supposed to be compliment. She understood. He said, oh boy, the food is great today. He said, do you mean that every day is bad? So Allah subhanahu teaches us, be sure to select the proper word, the best word, because the shaitan can twist it for you. So don't allow him to twist it in this case. So that is an advice for all of us, frankly, as in business or in home or something, think about the word you use and can it be misinterpreted or somebody take it the wrong way. So, and then Allah subhanahu, obviously, not in this surah, but in regarding, to giving, also the best. If you look now, you focus on the word ahsan, is the best. You look to other surah that has ahsan. What else Allah subhanahu commands us to do? Use the best. Allah subhanahu, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. When you're inviting somebody, tell somebody about Islam and argue with him about, they talk about Christianity, talk about Islam and so on. Allah subhanahu say, argue with them with the best manner, because the objective is not to win an argument. The objective is to win a heart. And if you try to overwhelm them, basically push them to submit, they will not accept it. But if you easy and you always, easy for them and kind with them, and it's not the issue, I'm not trying to force you to anything, then they might think about it. So people have to really become very gentle how they speak, particularly those people who are engaged in da'wah, or even try to convince your son or something, or daughter or something, or your wife, or even in your business, if you are a manager and have people under you and you want to invite them to do something, always, and they come with an idea and you argue another idea. Try to use the best words, the best approach, the best manner too. Don't get nervous, because a lot of time you get people who like debate, even in the TV about Islam or other issues in Muslim, and they get nervous. But if you get if you sit in a lot of time, you get a Jewish guy or something, he's so cool, smooth, doesn't get upset, doesn't get anything. But somehow we get, heated, always our discussion, our voice get raised up. And we have to learn this is not a best way to speak. Raising your voice is also, I'm telling you this and I'm reminding myself, frankly, too, because even when my son or something argue, I get upset sometimes. I'm trying to convince him of something and he doesn't want to be convinced. So is it his problem or it's my problem? So I get mad, but that's not the right way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you should always pick the best way to do it. This is big to also these verses, because we hear it so many times, particularly in the Jum'ah. من يهدي الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلن تجد له أولياء من دونه. Whoever Allah guide is the one who's truly guided, and whoever Allah, actually the word, you see, when we translate, we say ومن يضلل الله. Dalal means misguidance. So if you translate the word, actually you said, and whoever Allah misguide. But we cannot use this. So we always say what Allah sends astray. I bet if you look at the old translation, you'll find it. Send him astray. فَلَنْ تَجِدَ لَهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ مِنْ دُونِهِ. That they will find no one other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then for Surah Al-Kahf, the same thing. من يهد الله فمن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا, that you will never find the guiding protected if Allah send him astray. So the issue is that when you read this from, just taking in isolation, and this is why the issue is that in the Quran, you cannot take statement in isolation. You have to take collective, because I told you so many times the Quran is a circular system. Every surah discuss, the same type of issues. To understand the subject, you have to collect everything related to that subject from every surah and harmonize them together to have a better understanding, because that's how you explain the term too. So if we notice in the Quran that when Allah subhanahu man yahdillah, then you ask, is the hidayah, what is the hidayah guidance is? Is the hidayah one type or multiple types? And if most of you have the book that I wrote about, the terms of the Quran. So I'm not going to go through it. I'm just going through quickly through there. The hidayah actually has three types, and it's all supported by verses from the Quran. Has this universal hidayah that everybody received the hidayah through two things: through the way Allah created us by the fitrah. And this is why in all people from past, until people now start to become atheists, but if you look at the past history, people always believed in God. They have the wrong image of God, but they believed in God. So there is a hidayah. And then Allah sent the messengers too. So there's two things everybody receives: your guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way He created you, from your fitrah, and then guidance from a messenger that comes also and deliver a message and correct if there is deviation happen. If you but it's up to people now to react to it, because there is no forcing, there's no compulsion here. Nobody's going to compel you to accept the messenger of the Prophet or to follow even your fitrah. So Allah subhanahu then some people accepted, some people rejected. So to know this, the hidayah, Allah subhanahu come to the people of Thamud. وَأَمَّا ثَمُودَ فَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ. As far as Thamud, the tribe of Thamud, we guided them. But what they did, فَاسْتَحَبُّوا الْعَمَى عَلَى الْهُدَى. They decided to accept, basically misguidance, and blinded for the misguidance, for the guidance, and accepted misguidance. So they selected it. They make that selection. Now, if you accept, you said, yeah, I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is enough? Or you now need support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you something extra to maintain, to let you stay on the main path. And this is what we call the supportive guidance. And this is why you look at, for example, as a surah, وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا, and those people who are guided, زَادَهُمْ هُدًى, increased their guidance. Well, they already guided. What then the type of new guidance that Allah will give to them to increase their guidance? This extra guidance. You become humble, accepted the guidance. Allah subhanahu will not leave you alone. Will give you this. Then there is another guidance which comes also part for the believer, because now as soon as you get the universal guidance, you have two choices: either become rejected, and that will be one group, or accepted. Your acceptance, you receive two more guidance. You give the guidance that Allah will support you always so you don't deviate, and then give you a guidance even when you die. And يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. Because a lot of time we all know the hadith about when you go to the grave, then the angel will come and ask you questions. Do you really remember this question? No. I mean, even if you now under stress and confusion, you probably wouldn't remember your own name. So Allah subhanahu will support you. So don't be concerned. If you really are believer, then Allah subhanahu will strengthen you with the firm word. You know what to say, at that point, in this life and in the hereafter too. So these are guidance. So how about the people whom now Allah let go astray? when Allah set the rule of this universe, Allah set rules for this universe, how everything will rotate, how everything will happen. If these two things happen, it's going to collapse with each other. Whatever energy will come out, or collapse will come out, or destruction will come. All of the rules that we study, scientists study. Do you think there is no rules for the human also? That if you do this, this is going to happen to you. If you do this, this is going to happen to you. So all what you have to do. So Allah subhanahu comes clearly and said, oh, those people who are not going to receive the guidance, they engage in these things, you know. And if they are engaged, don't now came and say, why God misguided? No, no, no. Allah didn't misguide them. They rejected the guidance and was transgressor. They committed injustice. They are wicked. They disbelievers. They betray every trust. They lie. They arrogant, you know, and so on. So Allah subhanahu clearly spelled it. I didn't quote the verses because the verses in that book. So when Allah subhanahu, somebody said, well, Allah, no, Allah doesn't pick people to guide and people to let astray or misguide. No, the people whom Allah let astray are people who commit these things. This is His rule. You don't like it, live with it. You know, okay, if you don't like to be misguided or led astray, don't commit injustice. Don't be wicked. Don't, you know, basically lie. Don't betray the trust. Don't do it, then Allah will guide you, will increase your guidance. But if you do it, then why will you blame? You said, oh, Allah, will Allah do this? No, Allah told you the rule and you live with the rule. You know, you didn't put the rule, Allah put the rule. So then this verse comes in. This is one of these verses which really is the problem of what, if you think about what is happening in Palestine today, this is a key verse. وَقُلْنَا مِنْ بَعْدِهِ لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ اسْكُنُوا الْأَرْضَ فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ جِئْنَا بِكُمْ لَفِيفًا. Meaning what Allah subhanahu, we said to the children of Israel after, you know, من بعده, after him, after Sayyidina Musa, yani, dwell in the land. Then when the final promise comes to pass, we shall bring you all together in a mixed gathering. Many of the Muslim interpreters interpret this verse that referring to as a sign that precedes the day of judgment, you know, as one of the major signs. What is this signs will happen that all of the children of the Israel, which is scattered all around the world, will gather in the land of Palestine. Then there is many of the hadiths comes after this and tie it to the upcoming of Jesus, peace be upon him, the return of Sayyidina Isa, of Jesus. And said that will happen and he will come and then he will lead the Muslim to fight them. They either have to convert or die or be killed. So now the interesting part that the same parallel idea is by evangelical Christians. They are the one who also knew in their prophecies that for Jesus to return back, Sayyidina Isa to come back, all of the Jews have to be gathered in Palestine. And therefore, the original idea of having established a state of Israel was never a Jewish idea, was not the basic leader of the Jewish movement, the Zionists. It was the Christian evangelist who came, and actually the Jews rejected it in the beginning. The leadership of the Jews rejected it in the beginning. They said, oh, they want to kick us out from Europe to go to that place. But they insist on it. And that's how you see the support of Israel it's coming because of this. They want to facilitate in their mind the return of Jesus. Now, let us look at these stories because it's interesting, actually. The same group who believe that, you know, for Isa to come and they will come and fight the Jews, and the Jews knows it too. No, they said, oh, well, these guys are supporting us because two things: we have to be killed or converted. So they are not doing it because of goodwill. They're doing it for our, one or two things happened to us. And they understood it, but they took advantage of it. So, but the Christian comes in, this righteous. They said, when Jesus he come into heaven, as soon as he come, all of the righteous Christian will be lifted up in heaven. They call it the rapture. Okay. So who's going to fight with Jesus? Isa did. If you good guys, that's what you believe in. You believe that, all of the Jews have to gather here. Isa have to come, have to fight, salam. He have to fight them, and they have to fight them with somebody, and then he will kill them or they convert. But you guys went to heaven. So at least the story of the Muslims are more logical, that yes, he will come and he will follow the message of Prophet Muhammad, and the Muslim will follow him, and he will be the leader and fight with them. So at least our story makes sense. So, but this was a big issue. This, everything actually derived somehow from a religion based on it. So when you understand, you said, why are they doing this? Are they stupid? No, they are not stupid. They believe in this prophecy on them, and they try to do it. The trouble with it is inconsistent. When moved now to Surah Al-Kahf, Surah Al-Kahf will do this, but there is two terms that I picked up. إذ آوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا إذ آوى الفتية الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. And when this youth, thought refuge in the cave, they said, oh, Lord, they grant us mercy from yourself. Min ladunk, from you. We need mercy from you. وهيئ لنا من what, and then prepare for us this. Then what happened when they sought mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? All of the physical laws, all of the natural laws that Allah established were suspended. Because what happened to them? They slept for 300 and not even beard grown. That's a suspension of time. They used to turn right and left, so they wouldn't get bed sores. And they were sleeping. And then, even in addition to this one, even the sun would change in direction to come to their cave. And then, even in this, because there is ayah that says, when people see them, they get afraid. Well, as people are sleeping, are not afraid. People will be scared even to go speak about them. Whoever will encounter that cave and look at it, their fear is fear to mention anything about them to other people. So it wouldn't be a place that everybody going in and so on. Now, so if you truly rely 100% on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all what you consider miracles that happen can happen to you too. Allah can change everything for you. But you have to have a very, really, sincere and full, because people sometimes do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to almost do it like a test. We do dua to Allah, let's see if he's going to deliver it or not. No, you should do the dua. You should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 100% convinced that he's going to deliver, because he can deliver. Not this doubtful, issues. Now, in the same surah comes in another word, min ladun, about the man who met, Sayyidina Musa. فوجد عبدا من عبادنا أتيناه رحمة وعلمناه من لدنا علما. And we taught him knowledge from us, min ladunna, from us. So here they were seeking mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, true mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here this person have knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we all know when he has this knowledge, his knowledge transcends, all human knowledge, because he knows something that's going to happen in the future and so on. But why? Because is this so? What it says that if you really can believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have true reliance on him, then in that case, no door will be closed on you. Every door will be open. But you have to have this, this really trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's really interesting. If you look at this, when we read the Fatiha, because I told you the Fatiha is the key, is the Quran, frankly. This subject here, what is the one word that it says in Fatiha that tells us have complete reliance on Allah and seek nothing from anybody other than Him? Even if you seek, be sure that He is the one who is delivering it. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And we translated and we said, oh, look, subhanallah, the structure of it that we seek from, you are the only one we seek from. No one else we seek any support from. Like the same thing, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. We don't worship anybody. You alone we worship. You alone we seek help. But what we do, we always seek help from anybody else, and Allah will be the last one. And in that, when things goes bad, then we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anyway, that will go. The last one, you probably will say, how can I pick this? The last one is number 10. When the people of the cave, wake up, they said, فَبَعَثُوا أَحَدُكُمْ بِوَرَقِكُمْ هَذِهِ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ فَلْيَمْضِيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامًا. Okay, he said, okay, well, they wake up after this and they were hungry and said, send the one to bring food for us. Okay, what is unique about this word? I looked at it and said, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامًا? You sleeping, if a person is sleep for a longer time and wake up, he wants to eat. He feels so hungry. I mean, is he going to look for any food or will become selective? You're always selective for the food when you are full. When you have, after you fill your stomach with food, then you become deserter, pick this or this. But when at the beginning you get indulged, in anything. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَى. So the character of those people, not anything that will pass. No, we want to get what is the best, the purest, the most tasteful things to it, which says that as a Muslim, as a believer, you should always have this matter of picking the best, not picking the most expensive, picking the best, no matter what you have. You always have to look to this, seek always the best. Even if you go and buy clothing, it's not how expensive it is. But you look at the clothing, the clean one, that fits you, a proper one. Wearing dirty clothes is not a character of a Muslim. Wearing a clothes that probably all crankers and so on, why it should be this? It doesn't cost you very much, to be sure that your clothing are nice, are fitted. If you are taking a meal, it doesn't have to be very expensive, but it has to be pure, from good material, prepared purely, presented good in a good manner, It has to be, because sometimes the appetizer, the things that would look nice, people will want to eat it. It's the same thing, even if you have a small home. Why don't you always make it the best? Is the cleanest, is the one that reflects the beauty and the excellence in that regard. When you speak, we talked about it before. Why don't you speak the best? You eat what is best. You clothe what should be best. The best, as I said, there is difference between extravagant or expensive and being the best. The best is a quality, is not the price. You can have a very simple things and it becoming so enjoyable in that regard. And when you work, perform the best always. So so take this best and when you treat people, treat them in the best manners in this regard. So the believer life as a Muslim, it should be actually characterized by refinements, and by cleanliness, by the quality. And we all have to learn how to do this. And it's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أزكى طعام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring lana food. But no, they want to pick the best food to bring it to them. Just before I end, since this is the 10th verse of the book, when I looked at how many verses we discussed in these 15, it is 341 verses. Okay, so if you do it, if inshallah, if we go to other 15, we could almost be finishing about 700 or 800 verses. So if you go actually around the Quran 2-3 times, you will be studying all of the verses in it. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلي كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us. Shower us with your blessings. Increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, purify our hearts, strengthen our faith, increase our knowledge, and make us benefit from what you have taught us. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, grant to all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for the favors you have bestowed upon us and our parent, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. Oh Allah, we seek from you all of the good, whether we know it or we don't. And we seek your refuge from all evil, whether we know it or we don't. Oh Allah, we seek refuge in you from incapacity, from laziness, from fear, from greed, from poverty, and from the torment of the grave. Oh Allah, we have many of our brethren who are living under oppression and injustice. Oh Allah, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, and grant them lasting peace and prosperities. Oh Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.